Thanks again for buying Hiptronics. Before going to the details on every tracks, I'll just give you a little introduction about the sounds, the general sounds that I'm using. A Bosendorfer XL for all the songs except for the third one, that is the ballad. There I'm using the grand upright, again the XL. And as for the Rhodes, what I found really easy for me is to use this kind of layout. So I'm using always the sound number 1 for the piano, but here I always have the Rhodes, and I'm using the electric piano 4 Mark V, okay, because it's quite different from the 1 and the 2, and I really liked it. It's more smooth and yeah, and fuller to me. And the trick that I'm using on the Rhodes is to add the vibe effect. So you can listen to it without it. It's like the natural one, but I want in a way to emulate a little bit the out of tune of the time. So this is what is happening actually. You hear? But it's really subtle. So, and then I'm using a delay, ping pong, very soft, and I'm moving the amount with the wheel. As for the clavinet, I'm starting with just the classic clavinet configuration. So you have a CA on the pickup and all the lights here. I'm not going to explain to you how the clavinet works right now. But again, for adding a little bit of this auto-tune thing, as the strings of the clavinet will be never be in tune, I'm again adding a little bit of vibe. You can hear that they are moving, so without it, within. Okay, and then I'm just using a little bit of drive. It's really subtle, like 0.3, just to exaggerate a little bit. And to add a little bit of grit on the sound. And as for the wah, I'm actually using an auto wah, but I'm moving it with a pedal. So the rate almost to 0 till 50%. This way I have both the attack of the auto wah that is doing wah wah and the pedal. So okay. And as for the Hammond organ, I'm using the live mode in a way like I would use real Hammond. So actually I'm never going to a certain preset with the different I don't know, drawbar settings or something like that, but always going back to the live mode number 1, and I know that I have the Hammond exactly as I left it. So it's really handy to me, because if you're used to have also real instrument, you know that you know that in advance that you have to change something before playing. So I just playing, I don't know, a piano. I have to go to the Hammond and it's here. But if I wanted to change it, I go really quick and I just change this and that. And you really don't have to be precise with this, because it's again something that you choose with your ears. So. That's it.
Looking for new places, joined by my son.
Here I have only one oscillator, a spare wave, and I've shaped the width of the waveform. In order to get a fatter sound. So this is 50%, this is 100%. So then, to make the sound more interesting, I'm also using an LFO with a random step to modulate the pitch. You can hear it. This is what is happening actually. So it's just more subtle. So. And I'm also using the keyboard sync, so I'm synchronizing the LFO. I'm resetting the start every time that I'm pressing the key. So every time I get a slightly different pitch. That's it. Then there is just a little bit of a delay to make a little bit of room. Create just a little bit of space, and yeah, the envelope is just a very quick decay on the filter. I was working on the beta version of the A1 before its release, and the NOR guys, they sent me one afternoon new beta with the ensemble effect in stereo this time. I really loved it. So I decided to add something to Ocean's Edge, and I've added this very fast spread pad. And I'm just using, as you can see, just this pulse wave, and I'm just shaping a little bit the width again, like in the lead. And this is without the ensemble. There is really bright reverb, but an interesting trick is the high pass. Why? Because I want to take out the bottom of the sound. So this is, for example, with the low pass, but I want to take out all this bass. So, and then sometimes I was using the modulation wheel to put down the amount of the ensembles. In this track, there is just a really nice voicing on the piano. With the left hand. And then there is a really nice part after it. You can see how nice is this voicing on the Rhodes or the quarto. At the end, there's this very nice voicing. You can see it. On this beautiful ballad, I'm using the Grand Upright, so it's the latest one, and it is a really lovely sound. I'm not using any reverb actually, but most of the sound is coming, this white sound is coming from the string resonance. the idea about this song while I was programming metronome sound on the state too by using this trick with the arpeggiator. It just triangle way. And so it came out like this. I think this voicing is really interesting. Basically, it's just the root, the third, and then the seventh, but the sixth. It's very wide. And then the rhythmic part that is behind it is. There is a change in the rhythm from a straight to a very short string pattern. So here the guitar is doing the big part is on the last part I'm doing this. This sounds a little bit nasty, but especially this chord, I really love this chord. You can see that I'm never doubling, of course. So the B flat is only here. On the lead, I'm using 2 oscillators. Triangle, both, with 24 semitones of distance. That's the interval. And I'm using this kind of the same trick on that I'm using in Ocean's Edge, the first track. But this time, instead of the stepped random, I'm using a smoothed random on the pitch. So if I give the note, it's going up and down. Okay, but what I'm using here on the lid, and it's really interesting, have this impulse morph to change something in real time, and I'm forcing, for example, the amount of this random thing on the pitch to change. So. The interesting thing is that in the meantime that I'm playing the solo and I'm using this this button, I don't know actually what is happening, so I have to react at the machine. So I'm doing something, the machine is saying something back, and I have to react back to the machine. So I think this is really interesting and a good way to think about the digital instrument again like a real instrument. That is like a real piano is always doing the this kind of thing. So it's more about the feeling. And also I'm using the other two impulse morphs. Sorry, for changing here to trigger the modulation envelope. So it's kind of the same, but it's just a different thing. So this is just changing the amount. This is triggering a modulation envelope, so another envelope that is going again on the pitch. But this is always the same, okay? So this is random, this is always the same. Then I'm using a really long reverb and really dark to create again the space on this sound. the guitar solo, I'm doing something with a clavinet, and I've put again the vibe and the outwa and using the pedal on the beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then so with the triplets, and then back. You can see that I'm always using the ghost note on the snare. So. This is the most important part. On this track I'm using a very simple comping set, proper set in the Hammond, so 8383, and a little bit of drive. And then I'm moving the drawbars live. So after the A part again is A, B, A. Then on the C part, on the B part, I'm also playing the theme with the same lead I'm using in the first track, Ocean's Edge. Just a nice thing, sometimes I'm using some ghost note like this, because I'm using, it's nice with the glide. You can clearly hear that it's F, but from here it's just a pew. And on the solo, I'm using Performance this time. It is made of two sounds. One is a kind of clavinet sound with a pulse wave and just an electric here waveform. And the other one, it's a kind of movie sound, and I'm using the modulation to modulate the filter and the pitch at the same time with the triangle, the LFO, like in the Model D or something like that. So, with the same rate, okay? So this together, and I'm using actually an impulse morph. So I'm locking it because I've changed a little bit the attack of the clavinetish sound, so it's more wah instead of pam. Okay, and there is also, you can see when I'm using this, I'm also using the unison. So the sound is more wide. It's really nice on the stereo again. And when I'm going to the B part, I'm using the Impulse Morph 3 that is adding the delay. And it's not anymore the wop wop. So this is okay. So this is really a beautiful ballad, and here I'm using the flickering effect. on the Rhodes. That means that I'm adding some colors, but in a rhythmic way. So, for example, here I on the F sharp, I'm moving the 6th and 9th. That's usually what I'm doing here. This kind of effect. And sometimes, I think in the V part, I'm also adding a little bit of delay. That's even more nice. That I'm already prepared here first. Here there is a really nice part by a rook here, and it's again with a kind of chord. You can see four. Just a four, a four, and a four. Then on the B part is just I'm just putting again up the delay. And then after a while there is this Brazilian thing. Okay. And then I switch into the Hammond, and I'm doing the same thing, but emphasizing the beat and just going down and then up again, and then the beat down immediately, up again, beat down. So we are on the C side, and it's actually a pretty digital C side. So we have actually just a noise here that is modulated by, so the filter is modulated by a smooth random LFO to create the movement of the waves. Okay? And then for the seagulls, I'm just using quite a lot of things, but basically I'm just using an envelope on the pitch to do the pound. This is changing the main pitch of the seagull to create the distance, the Doppler effect. And with this I'm triggering the seagulls. Then I'm just using a sample, a vibes sample, and a phaser. So without. Then I'm just using a mellotron sample, the Free Violinist Mark II, and a very aggressive synth. It's just 2 sawtooth and 1 interval, octave interval, with the drive here and also here, so the feedback on the filter. And to get this wobbly dubstep effect, I'm using not a low pass but a band pass. So actually I'm moving the whole band of sound up and down. So I'm not just moving, just adding the high, but I'm moving the whole thing up and down. And these are of course synced with the tempo of the song, that is 160. So with this I'm triggering the triplets on the LFO, and that is of course going to the filter. And this is the 8. With this, I'm triggering just a ramp, but in a negative. So it's just I want the pitch to go down, as you can see here. So it's really interesting. It's pretty funny. On this song, I'm using the Hammond with the classic rock drawbar set at first, so it's just 8-8-8-8, but with a lot of drives. And it's again a quarto that they works really nice together. You can hear how good is the simulation in the North, because if I'm going down with this hand to do this kind of gospel, is just to add some mass, the volume of this part, all these harmonics are going down. So just changing from slow to fast, and at the end, to make it even more aggressive, I think I'm turning a little bit even more the drives. But to create a more dramatic effect, I'm going not from slow to fast, but from stop to fast. So. Hear that it's really nasty. But when it's going to the fast, it's really open. Then I'm doing this, all this kind of thing, very rhythmical thing. When I was mixing the keyboards, I've never added some effects or stuff, but you can listen on the files that you have that I just smooth out the high and the low. So the low to make space, you know, to the bass, to the kick drum and stuff like that, because sometimes you really don't need this part in the real bottom, the very low bass, but you just need that kind of energy, that idea, so you can take out that. But sometimes when you're playing too loud with the piano, this high frequency, I found it quite annoying. I mean, it's normal because when you put the microphone very close to the source, so the piano in this case, it actually sounds like that. But you are used to listen to the piano not from the top, but from a different angle, and that's why I'm smoothing out always the high of the keyboard. So I think they are more pleasant to listen. Thanks for watching. If you are really interested in learning more about playing an Hammond, a Clavinet, Rhodes, or more about synthesis programming, please check out my website and the Skype lesson page. Thank you again.